Good morning, everybody. Brandon Baylor and Jenny Dale here. Some breaking news, of course, coming out of Tampa Bay. We kind of knew this the last couple of days, but Tom Brady officially a member of the Buccaneers heading forward into 2020.
Make sure you check on your Patriots friends and family out there because they are probably suffering now that this is officially official. Tom Brady is the newest member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and according to ESPN, it is a 2-year deal. So we will have to see what is going to happen now as Tom Brady, of course, took to Instagram, people's favorite way to now announce deals, Twitter and Instagram. And what he wrote was that he's excited, humble, and hungry. If there's one thing I've learned about football, it's that nobody cares what you did last year or the year before that. You earn the trust and respect of those around you through your commitment every single day. I'm starting a new football journey and thankful for the Buccaneers for giving me an opportunity to do what I love to do. I look forward to meeting all my new teammates and coaches and proving to them that they can believe and trust in me. I've always believed that well done is better than well said. So I'm going to not say much more. I'm going to get to work. And that sounds like a very Tom Brady thing to say. Do your job was obviously the Patriots way, and I'm sure he's going to carry on those morals over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Year 21 taking off in Tampa Bay, and of course a lot of fans excited. It's a huge buzz down there in Tampa Bay. Of course, remember now the Super Bowl 55 will take place at Raymond James. The way it looks right now, Tom Brady chasing history, maybe chasing history to be the first host city to play in the Super Bowl in your home stadium. Of course, Brady has a lot more weapons than he did with the Patriots last year. You got a Mike Evans, a Chris Godwin. Both those guys went over 1,000 yards there. A defense that was top 5. This was set up perfectly for him. Of course, it came down between the Chargers and the Bucs, but as you can see here, the grin, of course, of the GOAT here, putting pen to paper, making it official. He's heading to Tampa Bay.
You think about
21.
The business side of things and how excited the Bucs organization must be. Obviously, they want to have a future star there, and that's what they have in a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer.
Super Bowl. I mean, when you get somebody that's a Tom Brady person, I guarantee you 31 other teams would have taken a shot if they didn't have a quarterback at it. And just looking at this, now I said this to Will Brinson earlier in this week, just looking at this, we don't know how it's going to stack up schedule-wise, but as far as the games that we're playing home and away, I said they could win 14.
Ooh.
I called it. I really think they can, but you just look at it at home, you got the Packers, the Super Bowl champs and the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Chargers, Rams away. You go to, Chicago, Detroit, the Broncos, Raiders, and Giants. By the way, the Raiders was one of those teams looking for Tom Brady. But then you're in the NFC South. You got to face off against Drew Brees twice a year.
That's not easy.
That will be interesting. Of course, the Panthers still trying to rebuild there. So this is one of those things where the NFC South will be a lot more interesting than it has the last couple of years.
Absolutely, and he's obviously so comfortable with the AFC East, so this will be a complete change for Brady and the opponents that he will be facing. But as we all know, Brady is one of the most incredible quarterbacks that's out there, and he's going to do everything in his power to get it done this year. All right, let's welcome in Jonathan Jones to break down the news that we knew was coming but is now official. So let's take it back a step, though, because I think when everything was going on with Tom Brady, where is he going to go? People said the Bucs, but a lot of people thought he was going to go to the Chargers. So why Tampa? Why did he pick Tampa?
Well, that's a great question, and obviously he had the ability to go to L.A. He and his wife, Gisele Bundchen, do have a mansion out in Brentwood, but according to one report, and obviously we all know this, his 12-year-old son that he has with actress Bridget Moynahan lives in New York City. He wanted to stay on the East Coast, Tampa Bay, obviously remaining on the East Coast in the same time zone, about a 3.5-4 hour flight that he would make there. So that's what makes a lot of sense. And then, of course, when you look at the weapons, when you look at the head coach, when you look at the general manager, a lot of familiarity there. First of all, general manager Jason Light used to be a Patriots scout when Tom Brady was there, came up in the Patriots organization and has, paved a path for himself. You have Bruce Arians, the self-proclaimed quarterback whisperer as head coach, kind of the polar opposite of Bill Belichick when you're talking about head coaches in the NFL. You look at the weapons, and listen, no disrespect at all to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and the guys that the Chargers have, but Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. And then you look at the two tight ends, Cameron Brate and O.J. Howard. Those are two tight ends when Tom Brady is coming off a season where he had 0 tight ends, essentially. Now they're going to add a running back. Obviously, Todd Gurley going to Atlanta. The number 1 on Tom Brady and everyone else's wish list probably should be Melvin Gordon. You look at that offensive line, pretty solid. You got to figure out the right tackle spot, but a pretty solid offensive line. And then a defense where you don't imagine you're going to be playing from behind. You have a lot of sack artists, obviously the best in the NFL last season, and Shaq Barrett. Then you have JPP just re-signing on a 2-year deal. The young secondary back there really came on strong in the second half of the season, creating takeaways. And so Tampa Bay Buccaneers on and off the field matched Tom Brady very well.
Now, this is a very critical time to get and build your roster. How much input do you think Brady will have on the end-all, be-all of the Bucs roster?
I'm not entirely sure he's going to have a ton of say. You know, this isn't, Kobe Bryant at the end of his Lakers tenure. You know, this isn't LeBron James at the end with the Cavaliers and then going to the Lakers, of course. That's not how the NFL works necessarily. But I will say this, if anyone has any say, if any player of the 1,900 players in the NFL have any say over personnel decisions, certainly Tom Brady has the most of them all. And let's not, discount at all that guys want to play with Tom Brady. Guys want to chase the ring with Tom Brady. They understand that he knows how to go about his business. This is a guy who's been to 9 Super Bowls in 20 years, looking for his 10th, obviously, with his second team. This is a guy who understands the Patriot way. Now, maybe the way doesn't have to be as rigid as it was for those 2 decades under Bill Belichick. And then, of course, there's the money aspect. Yeah, I'll take less, but I'll also take less to go to the state of Florida where there are no state income taxes, where I can go compete for a world championship. All of those things are going to factor in. Now, might Jason Light and Bruce Arians go to Tom Brady and say, hey, we're thinking about this guy. What do you think about the way that he runs routes? Maybe. That might happen. But, Jason Light and Bruce Arians still have absolute control over this roster. And if they're interested in Tom Brady's opinion, they'll certainly ask for it.
ESPN reporting that this will be a 2-year deal. Are you surprised on the length of the deal?
Not at all. And I also would not be surprised, knowing Tom Brady, if he adds a 3rd year onto that after these 2 years. He's like, you know what, I'm not done. I still have some left in the tank. And if his play dictates it, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may give it to him. Of course, that's down the road. But Tom Brady, for the longest time, for several years now, for 3 years at least, has been saying that he wants to play until 45. Ever since he hit age 40, he's talked about playing till 45. This takes him right up to that. This would obviously make him the oldest starting quarterback in NFL history, taking the mantle from Steve DeBerg, a former Tampa Bay player who did that with the Atlanta Falcons in the late 90s. That is what Tom Brady has had his sights on for some time. And listen, I know that there's talk about diminished strength and diminished arm skill. You watch the Patriots, I didn't see diminished arm strength from Tom Brady last season. I saw him struggling to find playmakers outside of Julian Edelman and, throwing the ball to James White every now and then. I certainly saw that. But in terms of Tom Brady being washed up, I did not see that. This has been a guy who's never been able to chunk the ball 70 yards down the field, standing still. He's never been that. But what he does, he makes very smart decisions. He's a very accurate passer. If you want to say maybe he lost some of that accuracy, okay, I'll go there. After all, he was a 42-year-old starting quarterback having to go through the rigors of an entire NFL season. But past that, I still think Tom Brady absolutely has it. This was the best quarterback signing that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers could have done this offseason.
And as you mentioned, he'll have many more weapons around him in Tampa than he did with the New England Patriots. JJ, thanks for joining us.
Well, it's official. Tom Brady posting it here, putting pen to paper early today. The grin of that 42-year-old GOAT there, saying in the statement, I'm excited, humble, and hungry. If there is one thing I have learned about football, it's that nobody cares what you did last year or the year before that. You earn the trust and respect of those around through your commitment every single day. I'm starting a new football journey and thankful for the Buccaneers for giving me an opportunity. He going by saying, I've always believed that well done is better, and well said. So #year 1. All right, joining us now in this breaking news of finally making it official with Tom Brady, TB12 going to TB. Jason Locking for joining us. And JLC, just looking at it now, we knew this was going to happen eventually, but with Brady now added to the equation, where do you stack the Buccaneers in the NFC?
I think he's a several win replacement over Jameis Winston just on protecting the football alone. I mean, Tom Brady could play there 4 years and not turn it over 40 times. So you look at that, he's going to cut down on mistakes. He's super smart. He will have that team in position late in games to win. He's not going to be a double agent. He's not going to try to do things that his body tells him, hey, that's not what we're best at anymore. And I believe Bruce Arians will do whatever is possible to put Tom Brady in positions to succeed, which means the coaching staff and other players learning the offense that Tom Brady's essentially going to be bringing with him to Tampa. I'm sure there'll be elements of what BA likes to do, but no one's going to try to force Tom Brady into an awkward situation or try to make him something he's not. They have talent on offense. The defense got better as the season went along. They need to address secondary still. They could use a little bit of fortification on the offensive line. They need a feature back. The running game hasn't been there in recent years, and I think with a 43-year-old quarterback, you better be able to run the ball as well. I think they'll try to add an explosive, dynamic back, maybe through the draft. There's generally plenty of them around every single year. So I think Tampa's in a great situation. New Orleans is, maybe on paper looks a little better. Their quarterback, though, is nearing the end as well. New Orleans is going to have a hard time keeping that whole team together. They've still got a lot of pending free agents, so it's going to be hard for them to bring them all back, or many of them back, frankly, based on the salary cap situation. Atlanta is trying to pretend like they don't need to rebuild, although a rebuild is on the horizon. And the Panthers are still kind of gutting it down to try to build it back up. So, yeah, I could certainly see Tampa in the playoffs, and I think Tampa has a real shot in the NFC South.
When you look at Bruce Arians, he's known as the QB whisperer. He's coached Roethlisberger, the Mannings, of course. And then also now you got Tom Brady. Could we see an uptick in play, based with this combination with Arians and Brady now in Tampa?
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady will spread the ball around. They have the ability to run a 2 tight end offense, which would be, similar in how it's devised to when Brady had Gronk and Aaron Hernandez when both were in their early prime. He can still throw the deep ball. I don't know that you're going to have him throw it, the way he did when, he was bombing it to Randy Moss 10 years ago. But it's still there. He showed it off a few times in the playoffs, and I think, even as I was talking to scouts at the time, saying, hey, I still have this in me. If you think I don't, come get me. Bruce Arians is a smart guy. Bruce Arians is a lot like Tom Brady, man. He's seen it all. He's done it all. He's in it for a title, a Lombardi, and nothing else, and he's not going to be around 4, 5, 6 years. This is a guy who retired previously. This is a guy who's battled cancer. This is a guy who every year sits down with his family, a lot like Tom Brady, and says, do we have another year in it? Is this still for us, or is it time to move on to the next stage of my life? So I think there'll be simpatico. I wouldn't have any concerns about the offensive side of the ball. Defense got better last year, but it needs to continue to make strides, and they do need to address the secondary, I think.
And just looking at the culture, when you're talking about what Tom Brady brings, we know the numbers will be there. We'll have to wait and see that. But the culture that TB12 will bring to this locker room where you're talking about just doing your job, how will that impact this young team that in past years, they struggle with maturity? But, of course, Arians kind of switched that a little bit. But TB12's impact on bringing that next level of competition.
Well, I mean, there's no comparison in terms of mindset, leadership, experience, maturity. Jameis Winston, Tom Brady, you're on different ends of the spectrum in a lot of ways there. So just his presence alone. And that's not to say that guys were anti-Jameis. Jameis had a lot of dudes there who wanted to roll with him, who were hoping that they brought him back. But the way Tom carries himself, Tom's demeanor, the things he says, the lifetime of NFL winning experience he has to cull upon at any given moment, that obviously sets the tone, and that commands immediate respect. Look, Mike Evans early in his career had some maturity issues. He's been great the last few years. I think Tom Brady will be even better for him. Antonio Brown spent 1 week around Tom Brady. Everybody was in that facility in New England for that week of practice and said Antonio Brown was like a sponge. He was like Tom Brady's little brother. Anything Tom said, he did. He was awesome in practice. The one game they played together against the Dolphins, there was a connection there. I mean, I think that just kind of shows the Brady effect. That now, it's also going to be a change, though, too. There's going to be a high standard. And like when Peyton Manning got to Denver, Tom Brady will call guys out. he will demand a certain level of concentration. He will demand a certain level of preparation, and he will not be afraid to unmask you if it's not there. So that's the other side of it, where there's going to be a culture change, and guys are going to have to get used to the fact that, like, there's no sacred cows, and Tom's not going to bite his tongue a whole lot, and he's in it, again, for one thing, to win a ring. And if he doesn't feel that you're giving what he's giving, you're going to hear about it.
A lot changing in a good way for the Buccaneers. The one question I only have, JLC, is if Chris Godwin's going to give up that number 12 jersey. We've seen in a lot of pictures, so that's a question we'll have to see in the offseason. As always, JLC, appreciate your time, man.
Tom Brady is officially a Buccaneer. The future Hall of Famer who spent the past 20 years in New England posted on Instagram a picture of himself signing his Buccaneers contract. The three-time MVP said he's, quote, excited, humbled, and hungry. ESPN was reporting that Brady got a 2-year deal. As we welcome in Ryan Wilson to talk about the draft implications that this signing now has. So Brady officially a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. When you look at the NFL draft, how do you think the Bucs are going to approach it now?
Yeah, so Jenny, here's the thing. 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, I think ideally the first thing you have to do is sign a ton of offensive linemen, draft a ton of offensive linemen, because the end of the day, you have to keep Tom Brady upright, and that's how this offense is going to work. Bruce Arians knows that. That's no surprise. So I wouldn't be surprised if they targeted an offensive lineman in round 1, and maybe in round 2, they look to take a quarterback. If someone like Jacob Eason is there in round 2, a young quarterback out of Washington, strong arm, maybe came out a year early and needs a year or two on the bench, he might be an option for the Buccaneers there, because we just saw it's a 2-year deal. Tom Brady will be 43 when the season begins. That means he'll be 45 when this thing wraps up. Potentially, Tom Brady could play forever. But if you want a contingency plan, I think Jacob Eason would make a ton of sense in round 2. And then for the rest of the draft, you go back to taking offensive linemen, because I'm not even joking. You have to keep Tom Brady safe. That has to be priority number 1. Now that he's in Tampa, now that people are buying tickets, now that you have a chance to win that division for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, you mentioned drafting a quarterback would be a great backup skill to learn from, one of the best that's out there. Now, when it comes to the O-linemen, because like you said, priority is keeping Tom Brady upright, who out there do you think is a perfect fit right now?
So they pick in the middle of the first round. So that's a little problematic. There are going to be 4 offensive linemen off the board potentially before they pick at 14. Kai Becton, Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills, Andrew Thomas are all guys they could target to play right or left tackle. And do they want to trade up to get one of these guys? And the answer is probably no. You want to keep all your draft picks and put as many players around Brady in this offense as you can. Someone like Andrew Thomas out of Georgia, he could fall, then you have to grab him. He can play left tackle or right tackle, played right tackle early in his career, played left tackle the last few years at Georgia protecting Jake Fromm and DeAndre Swift. He could be an option there. Alternatively, if you want to circle back in rounds 3 and beyond, for example, perhaps you get someone like Lucas Nang out of TCU. Even in round 1, if you want to target defensive tackles, that could be an option as well to solidify that defense that went from one of the worst in 2018 to a top 5, top 6 unit last year. But I think that defense is in pretty good shape. I think ideally you start with the O-line, and then you circle back to the quarterback, and then you circle back to the O-line. That's going to be my talking points for the rest of this offseason before the draft. But I think that would be the game plan for the Buccaneers right now.
So you said the defense is in pretty good shape, and obviously the focus right now is the O-line protecting Brady. But do you think they need to address the secondary in any way?
The funny thing is they spent a lot of time last year in the draft getting better in the secondary. They drafted 2 or 3 guys in rounds 2 and 3, I think, off the top of my head. Sean Bunting came out of a small school in Michigan. He played really well. They got Jamal Dean out of Auburn, who ran a 4.3 and change at the combine last year and got everyone's attention. So the secondary is going in the right direction. You could certainly solidify other players in that secondary, but I think if they're at pick 14 and all those offensive linemen are gone, they can focus on defensive line, whether it's Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina, or whether it's Derek Brown out of Auburn. I don't think he falls that far. I think that's where they'll start. And then I think maybe day 3 of the draft, they could circle back to look at defensive backs. But I think, I'll say it again, Jenny, offensive lineman is where you got to start.
O-line, O-line, O-line is the focus. I think all the players out there, these young kids that are now going to be drafted, they're excited to get drafted in general. But now to be able to have the opportunity to play with Tom Brady if they get drafted by the Bucs, it takes it up to another level. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. So obviously the breaking news here today that Tom Brady is officially a Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
It's been the breaking news the last couple of days. The GOAT.
But now
his talent south.
there is writing on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. TB12 to be determined how that pans out. We'll see. But those odds,
He'll get the 12.
They're moving on up for the Bucs. I mean, before he got there.
This is to win the NFC right here. So they're now currently at plus 800.
And that helps when you got Tom Brady as your quarterback.
Right.
And of course, they'll like New Orleans in a division with Drew Brees. That should be interesting seeing those two battle twice a year. San Francisco, of course, the NFC champs.
Still at the top of the list.
325, but that could change throughout the rest of the season.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.